Oh, ladies and gentlemen, folks from all over the world, all the random fans we have in places I don't even know if I can pronounce. That was fun to see recently when I saw the map of different fans and where they're listening from. I was just like, I don't know what country that is. But welcome to another edition of Geektastic Sci-Fi here on Free X Agents Media. I'm Brian Holiday. Thank you. We got two guests with us this week because the rest of the crew could not do the show, but we really wanted to talk about Velma and that 90s show. And we're like, okay, let's just do those two shows. We'll do like a shorter thing instead of an hour and a half. We can do like an hour and just talk about those and get into it. So we got, I guess, to my left or on your screen right, or Sandy's here. What's up, Sandy? How you been?
Good. How are you?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna introduce Ness before I say how I've been, because you know how I've been. But I feel like so Ness is back again. Another one.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Ness, you're not in the studio this time. You're on the space with me.
I know, isn't it weird?
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little sad.
Miss having me there.
Yeah. Ness is going to be in a future episode of That's Canon coming up soon. We're bringing That's Canon back for all of our fans. For those of you who've never heard of that, That's Canon is our comic book podcast that we do. Myself, Dave, and Toby used to do it, and we're bringing it back, so it's going to be fun. And Sandy just asked me, how am I doing? Well, folks, DHL is the devil, and if ever they want to sponsor this you know what? I'm going to say it here right now. All of you can listen, all you listeners, all you people watching for the first time, I'm going to look right into the camera, looking right at y'all. I will never take DHL's money. Even if they offered to sponsor our podcast for 5 years, big check, handed out one shot.
You sure about that?
Ness, if you understood the things I've gone through in the past few days with them, you would understand why I would never wish DHL on my worst enemy.
Hey, money is money.
Ness ready to sell out real quick. Yo, okay, right now on my, so some of you know, you've heard me talk about before, I use a 55-inch TV as a monitor in the office, which I know I'm lucky to have that. It's an old TV, but it works very well. And on that TV right now, I have the podcast with everyone in front of me. And on the side, I have a sliver. I have it connected to a webcam that is in my window, because DHL has said they've attempted deliveries to my house when I have been sitting in this exact spot. And from this spot, I can see the front entrance of my building. And I know they're lying. I know no one came to my house today at 3:15 p.m. to try and drop off my package. And when they told me that they tried to drop it off, I said to the person, I literally said, that is a bold-faced lie, sir, and I want to file a complaint. And the person on the line, Blanca, thank you for taking the call. You were very patient with me because I was the most angry I've ever been on a call. But shout outs to Blanca. Blanca tried their best to just get me to like woosah a little bit, but I was like ready to start lighting fire. I was so mad.
I feel like that's been happening like a lot recently. Even with Amazon, I've been experiencing that. They say that it was delivered and I got nothing.
Yeah.
And then they have to like send me something else.
Here's the thing. The thing that bothers me the most about this stuff is during the pandemic, I understand that almost everyone was working from home. So I got that delivery services were just like, yo, man, we're just going to start rolling this train. Like, if this is supposed to be delivered to you on Wednesday, but we got it, we're going to bring it to your house on Monday. And guess what? I'm at my desk. I'm here. Yeah. Why would I not want to receive packages 2 days early? But some of us, and Ness knows what I'm talking about, we're in the office these days. You know, the boss likes to see the worker drones working. So when I have to go and sit at my desk at the office, and I'm sitting there like, all right, well, this package is coming in 2 days. I don't have to worry about it. And then I peek over at my phone and a little notification, nice little ding, that dopamine ding that we all love, pops up. And I think, ooh, I'm going to get a nice little message from a friend. Someone's telling me something funny. And you open it up and it's just like delivery failure. And it's just like, listen, don't make me light someone. So all this to say, Brian Holiday is doing a lot of woosahing, a lot of deep breaths. My partner's a
In,
nurse.
out,
My
in,
partner's a
out.
nurse and was just like, you need to take 5 deep breaths. And when I took the 5, because she was legit counting, she's just like, I'm gonna need you to take another one. I was like, okay.
For extra measure. And I was thinking you've got you're on theme, you're trying to solve the mystery. You are Velma this week.
I am Velma this week. The mystery of
point.
the missing packages, or the mystery of the idiotic delivery people. But either one, maybe, hey, it sounds like they answer each other. The missing package and the idiotic delivery person might be the connection.
The same mystery.
If it wasn't for us darn kids, they would have gotten away with screwing us over. But you know what? Yeah, let's
Wow.
start it off. Sandy, you brought it up. Velma, we've had 4 episodes so far. Ness, did you get to watch all 4?
I did.
Okay, cool.
I did not finish the last episode.
fourth
I think
one?
I had a few minutes left, but
Okay.
I watched most of
You
it.
got the gist.
Yeah.
The gist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
not as much.
Where do we want to start with that show? Do we want to start with the show itself? Do we want to start with discussing the feedback, the reaction, the cultural significance? What do we want to go on first?
I feel like you can't really talk about the show without like the reactionary context of it. Is
Okay.
that fair? Or do we just
That's
like
fair.
go on its merits and then let that seep in as it does?
I mean, I have specific things I want to say as a response to some of the reaction that I can throw in at any point.
I'm curious about them though, because I have not actually seen any reactions about
Okay,
it.
so we'll give some context. Mindy Kaling, and I want to preface this by saying something to a lot of people, and I feel like just understanding this one thing alone might help a lot of people. And I've said it on the show before with regards to creators of color. Not every creator of color wants to tell the story of a character of color. Sometimes they want to tell the story of a character who happens to be a person of color. And those are very specific and distinct things that some people need to take into consideration. Mindy Kaling, in telling the story of Velma, from what I've seen so far, and my understanding of what they're trying to do with this show, Velma is a character who happens to be South Asian. I don't think they're trying to tell the story of a South Asian Velma. And I think
That's what I thought too. That's
Right.
how I saw it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that already, Sandy, sorry, it looks like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, it's just kind of like the characters are who they are. And
Right.
I think a lot of because there's so little Indian American representation, a lot gets put on Mindy Kaling's shoulders, I think.
Yes.
And so like she has to be the sterling, and it's like she just kind of wants to write characters that vibe with her, and I get that. And like
Yes.
Velma is a very Mindy Kaling character.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Once
agree.
you start watching the show, you're just like, okay, we get what you're doing. This is, you know, if you've watched the Mindy Kaling Project and all the other stuff, you're just like, I get what you're doing here. Like, I understand who this character is with your voice, you know,
Yeah.
and even literally the voice, because she's doing the voice of the character. So I just wanted to start with that because I feel like at least, and thankfully all 3 of us are on the same page where when we're reviewing this, we're talking about it from the perspective of someone who is writing a show about a character who happens to be South Asian, and not us trying to go into some deep understanding of this character's blah, 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 blah. So Ness, you had said that you hadn't heard some of the feedback. I mean, obviously there was some racist feedback. There's, you know, people are just like, why are you race bending this character? Which, you know, as I just said, has more, you know, Mindy's not trying to race bend as much as this character just happens to be South Asian. And then
But isn't Daphne also?
Yeah, Daphne's East Asian, Velma's South Asian, Norville is African American,
Yeah.
and Shaggy. Sorry, that
Yeah, I
another
was gonna
thing that
say
people
he is
Norville.
supposed to be, right?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
Shaggy yet.
not,
But I
yeah.
Yeah.
feel like it would be weirder to like cast those people and then keep them all white as characters. Like that would be the race bend. Like I don't know. It's just an animation convention now of just like, yeah, make the character look like the voice actor and cast whoever you want, you know?
Oh yeah, that's a
That,
good
man,
yeah.
that's a fantastic point. And all, yeah, because we had such a bad reaction when Kristen Bell was doing the voice on Central Park, and Jenny Slate was doing the voice on Big Mouth, and people kind of had this huge like, oh well, these white, and I got it. I understood why some people were offended, but I'd also point out that, and I know it's not necessarily the same thing. There's a lot of conversations about depression and blah blah blah, but at the same time, Cree Summer did the voice of Penny on Inspector Gadget our whole lives. I don't know how many people know that, but as kids growing up, if you watch Inspector Gadget, that was Freddy from a different world, and that's who that voice was. And Cree Summer has been doing the voices of anyone and everyone throughout history. So for me, with the Jenny Slate thing and Kristen Bell, it's just like, this isn't offensive to me, but whatever.
It was, I mean, people were like, hey, can you defund the police? And they were like, no, let's just recast some voice actors and call it a day. So like, I mean, that's the end of that for me. Of like, well, and if we want to, I don't know, cast shows more diverse than the 2000s version, the 1960s Hanna-Barbera version, like, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, Ness, for some context, I run a lot of Watch Mojo's socials, and so I am very up to date on what people are saying about it, more or less.
Okay.
So I'm in the trenches about all this stuff every day and seeing the reactionary, like, oh, you can't. And I'm
you don't even want to repeat. You're just like, please, I don't even.
I'm so over so much of it because it's like it's all the same patterns, and it's never like, it's never the gotcha they think it is.
Oh yeah, at all. So I think, at least I'll start with my take on the show. The show is nowhere near as horrible or as poorly written or all these other weird things I've heard people say. I think the show's actually, it's a mid show is what I would say. Like it has the potential to be better if they tried a little bit harder with some of the jokes. Like some of it feels a little too self-referential. You're being a little overly meta about it, and I get it, but at the same time, it feels heavy-handed with the way they're doing it. But at the same time, it's nowhere near as bad as some of the stuff. And one of the comments I've heard a lot is people being like, well, Velma would never be this idiotic or silly, and this character would never be this.
In what way?
Like Velma, because Velma was kind of always depicted in the original show as being like a very intelligent, kind of nerdy character. And as much as this Velma is nerdy, this Velma is also, and you know what, Ness, I think probably the best answer to that is this Velma is more emotional, which is more realistic of a character.
Oh, and the original that's what they Velma have a problem with?
Well, they have a problem with the Velma because they find that the Velma now on the show makes bad decisions.
Soft. Okay.
Soft, bad decision. But I mean, it's a teenage character in high school who's being picked on. I feel like making bad decisions is par for the course. We all went through that.
And I'm trying to find this balance because like I want to trust the show in like showing that she's going to have development as a character. Cause I think it does very obviously say like whenever she's in the wrong, that she's in the wrong. But it's just like, sometimes it doesn't really frame that well enough for me. So those like bad decisions or being kind of a dick, like it rubs me the wrong way a bit. And I'm like, no, like just contextualize that this character is not being the badass she thinks she, but then I was like, I was ready to rip into it, and I watched this latest episode, and I'm like, it's not as bad as I thought, or I feel like the latest episode kind of, in terms of how they're building a story, it kind of gave me a bit more trust in where they were going with it,
right?
Than the first couple episodes where you're like, are you gonna answer any of these questions?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. It's kind of crazy that people were expecting character development so early. Like these characters aren't the original Scooby-Doo crew that so you have to be prepared for them to redevelop and reintroduce you to these people, these characters in the show. Sorry.
To be honest, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, to be honest, the first episode, it kind of got the vibe that this is like a Velma in a different universe.
Sure.
So kind of like a multiverse. You know how I'm just thinking of Spider-Man, for instance, where there's all types of different, Spider-Mans in different parts of the universe, and they all have extremely different personalities. They do different things. And that's kind of how I saw this character, was that this is just a Velma in a different universe experiencing her life.
Yeah, that's one of
And
the best ways I think to think about it too. If
yeah, so right away I was like, okay, this is not a traditional like Scooby-Doo and Velma experience. This is a different take on Velma. That's kind of how
And I think
that's the way it was introduced, I feel like, to me.
Hmm.
I totally agree, and I think, like, part of the fun is, like, seeing whether it gets to where, because so many origin stories, they just like, "Oh, this is where they got the jacket, y'all remember?" Like,
yeah, yeah.
this is where, and here it's like, I'm legitimately not sure if Shaggy's gonna be smoking weed by the end of this thing.
I okay, right? I mean, the way this character acts with the drugs and like not understanding anything doesn't
Is
even
that an alternate universe take, or is it like, are they building to that? I don't know, and that's, like, the
True.
suspense, like
And the fun. I
yeah.
find it fun. Like I found the little weird jokes of like really emphasizing how much he's not into drugs, and like that line where he like actively says like, "And I'm again." Like it's like, okay, we already got
Yeah.
that. You didn't need to go. But I'm enjoying what they're doing with Norville, and Sam Richardson is such a good voice actor that it's so fun to listen to him do that voice.
Yeah. I just find it's a bit for me overall so far the first 4 episodes, it's a bit too self-aware
Yeah.
um with the jokes.
And lazy
um
with the self-awareness, like, we've already watched Deadpool, you know? Like
yeah.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that's why some of the jokes for me don't land.
Hmm.
Um, you know, kind of like Sandy was saying, I first was like, I'm not gonna like this. This seems a bit too like they're trying too hard. And then it started warming up to me a little bit more.
Yeah.
It started getting a bit more I guess softer, but the jokes are still a bit too self-aware. They
and you
need to
meant
tone it down a little bit.
I or like, yeah, clever it up, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
will say, Sam Richardson was mentioned, and this voice cast I love.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is selling the jokes that are on the page at least, and,
Yeah.
like, doing their I don't know, like, there's no complaints from me from the cast.
Well, speaking of the cast, just to give people the reference if they haven't seen it already, we have Mindy Kaling as Velma. We have Glenn Howerton as Fred. Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny in Philadelphia and AP Bio. You have Sam Richardson as Norville. Sam Richardson has been in tons of projects. If you haven't seen him in Detroiters, go check him out. He's fantastic in that. And then Constance Wu from Fresh Off the Boat. And what was her Crazy Rich Asians? And what's the other part? She did this show. Actually, I won't even mention that one because it's propaganda for military industrial system, but whatever. Doing the voice of Daphne. We have Velma's dad's girlfriend, Sophie, done by Melissa Fumero from the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And Russell Peters is playing Velma's dad. And then we have Jane Lynch and Wanda Sykes as Daphne's moms. Oh, and
It's a
then
pretty good
Nicole
cast.
Byer. I'm sorry?
No, I said it's a pretty good cast.
Yeah, Nicole Byer as Norville's mom. And then I'm trying to
Mhm.
remember who the Norville's
Uh,
dad is. Gary Cole?
yeah,
Yeah,
that sounded
Gary
like him,
Cole.
and I
Yeah.
think I heard some, Dean Pelton, Jim Rash as the mayor. The
Yes,
Anyone
yes,
remember the dean
yes.
from
I didn't
Community?
have that on the list, but
Yeah, I
yeah, love the TV producer.
all-star
Oh,
voice
he's in
cast
it?
Who was also on?
on
Sorry, Ness.
No, I said he's in it. I didn't even realize. Who is he playing? Dean
He
from
was the
the
Community?
mayor in that
mayor, I
episode
think.
where they're
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay.
But he also pops up in that 90s show, which we're gonna talk about right after,
Top 10
which is
callbacks.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What else did we see in? Oh, one of the things I wanted to mention with regards to the understanding the characters, and I'd mentioned I wanted to say this earlier to you, Sandy. When people who compare this show to Harley Quinn, one of the things I'm trying to understand is like, why is it that Batman can be an idiot in Harley Quinn, but Velma can't be flawed in this? And why are we setting a different standard? That's the one that was one of the main questions I had for those fandoms. I mean, we obviously know why
Yeah.
because but I wanted to vocalize that question out officially so that they have to look at themselves when they say like, well, I mean, it's different. Why is it different? If you can explain to me why it's different without referencing this person's gender or race, and just explain to me why it's so different that Batman is a complete idiot in Harley. Like not slight idiot. We're talking bring your parents back from the dead and almost kill everyone in the city, stupid. Then and you're okay with that storyline, but Velma being a little weird and not understanding things, totally a problem for you. So
yeah, I
look
mean, I
forward
think
to-
people are also just, they have this idea of who Velma is, and it's like
Yeah.
stuck. They don't see it any other way.
Yes.
You know, because we've seen Velma a certain way for so long that seeing her in this light is, I think, too negative for some.
Well,
Yeah.
but then also someone was pointing out on Twitter that like over time the like character model for Velma has just kind of become the exact same as Daphne. And I think we've kind of
Yikes.
like
True.
the whole lazy animation, like things have just kind of been moving towards like the sexification of Velma or like and
God, yeah.
just like whether or not, you know, some of the meta humor is a bit lazy, like it is a good take that deserves to exist and like
Yeah.
pushes the Scooby-Doo characters like further than you know, than we're used to seeing them. And I think that's like a good thing. And I mentioned this kind of slightly before we went on, but it's like it's hard to find that balance of like good faith criticism against a show we want to be better versus like the people leading the anti-Velma conversation are not doing it in good faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it got
good point.
renewed despite being the lowest rated animated show on IMDb ever. So
Did it?
But lowest rated on IMDb, but most viewed animated or even possibly premiered series on HBO Max. And I remember after the first 2 episodes dropped, all the comments on Twitter was like, "We told you not to hate watch. Look at what you've done." And all I kept thinking was, "Excellent. Keep hate watching and getting shows renewed." Because I wish people hate watched what's the Cowboy Bebop live action enough, because Netflix would have thought to continue, because that was pretty solid, but there wasn't enough negative feedback for it to not it got canceled. And it's like, this wasn't that bad.
No.
I think it also kind of falls into the trap of like every animated show for adults needs to be a comedy.
Right.
And what I've noticed more and more is that the most intriguing parts of these shows, I think Q-Force was one of them, like all these geared towards adults and kind of raunchier humor, but like the more interesting part is the serial story going on, like the mystery.
Mhm.
And like as they keep calling attention to, like, so are the backstories, I'm like invested in these characters.
Yeah.
But that's what's getting me to come back more than any of the jokes or like the humor. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a comedy. It can have jokes, but like not everything has to be Rick and Morty. Sorry to bring that one up in these troubled times.
Who's Rick and Morty? I don't even remember this show you're talking
Never heard
about.
of it. Never heard of it.
The toxicity of this Rick and
But that's a good
Morty.
point. That's a good point, because I actually got more interested in it as they started bringing up more serious topics and serious situations that Velma was dealing with. That's when I was like, okay, it's getting a bit more interesting. Because if it was just the humor, honestly, I think I would turn it off. Wait, okay. I'm not gonna lie.
You're just like, listen, you need to slow down with these jokes because my TV's about to turn off. Okay, I gotta ask a question, because I've never had a panic attack, and so anyone, if and I don't know that either of you have had, but if you have had, or if you know people who've had and seen them, what Velma is experiencing with the clawing almost heart attack, is that supposed to be a panic attack, or is that some sort of, are they trying to represent some other medical condition that she might have?
I'd just like to first jump in and do a PSA from someone I watched that with who has panic attacks.
Okay.
Do not kiss someone if they are having a panic attack.
Very good
That
point.
is not the way to respond to that situation.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads just into my answer of like, I don't think it's a very good portrayal of A, panic attacks, or B, queerness. Like that's the one I can speak on. And like,
yeah,
I don't know about how they're writing these romance storylines.
Yeah, I thought it was a really strange way to introduce, their interests to each other. It was, I don't know. And
Yeah.
also, I didn't think it was panic attacks.
Okay,
I
so
thought
I don't know if it is. That's why I'm asking, because I
I
was
don't know
trying to.
either. That's
Yeah,
what was confusing.
yeah. Like I was trying to understand. Like, are they saying that she's having panic attacks? Are they trying to imply that she's having delusions or psychosis? Like, because it's really not clear. And I understand that it's one thing when you do something like that on a show like Harley Quinn, because that is kind of already set in a fantastical world with kind of craziness. But Velma is set in a slightly, well, even I wouldn't even say slightly. The origin of that whole Scooby-Doo family is there is no such thing as ghosts. We've always been able to figure out who is pretending to be a ghost, and it's all grounded in a real world. So when you
Mhm.
start to see those types of moments of like this illusion that she keeps having with this monster and digging into her chest and grabbing at her heart, and I'm like, I don't understand if I'm seeing something that is supposed to be, especially when she was at Fred's house in the first episode, and like, Norval gets her laughing and it's glitching. So I'm like, okay, this obviously in her head, but are they trying to imply that she has this kind of medical condition where this is what happens to her? And
I
it's
feel
hard to
like
understand what they're trying to represent, is what I was saying.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of saw it as this voice in her head that's
Hmm.
been haunting her since her mother disappeared.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know if you've seen Euphoria, but
Season
there's
one.
an episode.
Two.
Okay, it's in season 2, but there's an episode where
Boil away.
it's not really a spoiler.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
But there's an episode in season 2 where one of the characters, I can't remember her name in the show, but Barbie Ferreira, I think is
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
One
name.
that writes fanfic
Yeah.
in the show.
So in the show, there's a scene where she's kind of like having this argument with herself because she's going
Oh.
through her own personal, trauma and
Like
issues and
crisis?
things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, and you see her arguing with herself back and forth, and that's kind of how I saw this. Was
Okay.
it's like she's fighting this voice in her head that keeps telling her she's the reason her mom disappeared. She's the reason, she's just
Yeah.
blaming herself for what happened in the past. I think that's what that was.
Okay.
But like you said, it was not clear, and I was kind of confused, especially when Daphne kissed her
Yeah.
to get out of it. I was like, what just happened?
Sorry. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I mean, like, I have a million things to say. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like, it looks like the classic monsters, which is kind of fun. That's one thing that I like about it, but that's the thing that I feel threw me, because I'm like, okay, so this is before they see the monsters and stuff like that. No one else is seeing this. She has that moment in front of her dad. Her dad's like, it's funny because the dad seems to not understand what's going on at all, but Sophie, the stepmom or daddy's baby daddy, whatever the relationship is over there, immediately understands the situation and starts performing some sort of medical assistance to help. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, sure. It seems serious enough that it is physically affecting her. And I was just like, okay, cool. Confused, very confused. Okay, I'll just accept it.
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes down to, like, I'm not really clear on the rules of this world.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I don't have to be entirely, but, like,
That's fair.
just like she's asked by the mayor to compile a top 5 list of hot girls, and it's like, okay, that is, we're not doing realism, but, like, are we kind of also doing
fair.
realism? Like, then it
Yeah.
turns I don't know, some of the there's just it I don't know how invested in the reality I'm supposed to be,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
should I just kind of tune out and it's a wacky, or ghost paranoia is coming back, like.
Yeah. No, that's, you know what? When you make the very, very valid argument of like, the mayor has a teenage kid write a list of the top 5 most attractive people so they can figure out who to put the police detail with, is yes, a stretch in which I should just accept this isn't the reality you want to be.
And that's fine. It's goofy,
Yeah.
it's wacky, but then, like,
Yeah.
also trying to ground it in, like, you know, her serious politics and, like, it's like, okay, well, which tone are we taking here?
You're right.
Exactly. That's a good point. I'm often like, what side are they on? Is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is it are we trying to talk about real stuff? Are we trying to just make is it a satire? Like I don't
And
know.
this is something that I think it's why it's had such bad reactions is because
Yeah.
it tries to be that progressive show that, like, talks about, you know, the systemic issues and patriarchy and racism, but also I find a lot of the humor is just, like, lazy and, like, mean-spirited too.
Right.
So it's like, if you're not gonna, like, have the heart and the love at the core of that worldview, like, it just makes both those groups of Twitter people angry.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
to mention something related to the kiss that Sandy you brought up. The the Attack of the Cliches on Netflix is a special I just watched, and in it they're talking about the kissing in the rain trope for like the end of movies. And Florence Pugh was talking about how when she did the film with Greta Gerwig, she kept asking her like, why do you want to do this? And Greta Gerwig was just like, I grew up watching movies do it and I want to do it. It's going to be in the movie. And Florence was just like, even trying to do the same things that everyone else has done, like not necessarily in a bad way, but more questioning like, but why do it? Because it doesn't, like, those are tropes from other people who've done it where it wasn't necessarily, you know, it was male centered, male gaze type storytelling. You're here, you're doing it, but you're still going to do it. She's just like, I want the kiss in the rain. Okay. I like it. It's going to be done. And I feel like the kiss between Daphne and uh
Velma.
Wow, totally. How did I mess up? It's the name of the damn show. But the kiss between Daphne and Velma was Mindy Kaling doing the whole like, well, I want the like Prince Charming kiss. Like there's that moment where the damsel in distress needs to be saved by quote unquote Prince Charming, and in that moment Daphne was Prince Charming, and I want my Prince Charming kiss, even if it's problematic and historically we've talked about the fact that the consent factor of that is a mess. They still did it, and that's what I found interesting, especially after watching Florence Pugh talk about Greta Gerwig saying, I grew up watching it, and even if I know it's not what's needed, I still want to see it. I still want to do it here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I didn't
I'm
like
not
the
saying it's a good thing, but I'm just saying maybe that's where that
No,
came
because
from.
I can understand that point of view, and honestly, it probably wouldn't have bothered me if it were done differently. I think it's the way the placement of it was a bit strange to me.
Yeah.
Especially because we're trying to understand these visions she's having and why she have some monster trying to
yeah.
swallow her up, and then it just takes Daphne's kiss to save her. So I feel like the placement was a bit off for me. But had it been done a bit differently, then I probably would have been okay with it.
It almost feels like a lot of the things that I'm worried about whether or not they can deliver on hinge on like this panic attacks and romance stuff. Is like, if by the end they can show that like it was a good idea to trust them on that arc,
okay,
that'll, you know, make it fulfilling. But if there's no real like, if there's no payoff to what, or you know, there's no clarity as to what that is in the story, I think that'll kind of give it, I don't know, we'll see where this mystery is going.
Yeah,
where are all their moms?
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yes. I'll say it again. It's a mid show, but I'm enjoying it as a mid. That's for me.
It's a great hate watch of just like, oh my god, they're doing this really.
Yeah,
like, couple good belly laughs in there, but like, just here and there, I'm like, oh yeah, they got me. But
like, I'm liking like even though Norville's whole subplot in one of the episodes was doing something purely out of trying to get Velma to fall for him, it was still funny to be like, I need to make money, and just like running around town doing the most ridiculous things for money. Like, I gotta sell this sword, I gotta give away my kidney. It's like, whoa. Like, and then to end it with him capturing a wanted, like, they reference a wanted person. He ends up saving. It's so funny, and then
It's a bit,
tying in-
it's ridiculous, but it's kind
Yeah.
of funny when it's ridiculous like that.
I loved his because it's like, oh, these burnouts are watching his YouTube videos about snacks,
That was
and
great.
he's
That's
like,
my Lil Wayne channel all over again. Great.
it's stuff like that you're like, yeah, this is great. Like this stuff where you're not trying to take yourself too seriously is really fun.
I think that's the key right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, taking itself too seriously is where it kind of falters.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know that scene, the scene in the gym when they have the mental illness assembly.
Oh my
Or
God,
no,
yeah.
sorry, not mental illness. What's it called?
The fights where they're trying to
The fights, but they had an assembly for
I
like
remember
mental
that one.
awareness or
Yeah.
something.
yeah.
And in one of the scenes, I guess it was supposed to be a joke, but Velma tries to embarrass Daphne by reading her journal.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, you can't do that, that's messed up, you can't talk about people's mental health and things like that. I don't know, just the joke I feel like didn't land, and it was kind of like,
and it still kind of portrayed her as in the right for wanting to do that, and so it's like that mean-spirited, like, and also,
and it was like Daphne was still being mean
Yeah.
to Velma, and then kicked her ass at the end, and everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. It's like what is going on?
Kicks her into a wall so hard there's blood for the first time. Like you've never, like,
yeah, like I don't know. That scene to me was just, I'm like, what is happening here? This is just, the message is not getting across. If they were trying to portray that as like, mental health is important, it did not come across as that to me.
I think one of the keys here is just like, it feels like this show doesn't know what it wants to be. Like it's trying to be a couple different things, and
100%.
I mean, like I can't stop comparing it in my head to the other one we're going to talk about, that 90s show, because that 90s show knows exactly what it wants to be. Like it 100% is just everyone's on board with the show they're making. This one, it's like it's really hard to tell with Velma what the show wants to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what direction they're going in.
Yeah. But you brought it up again, and it's the perfect time to transition to it. Real quick though, would you all recommend Velma for people to check out? That's a no.
Some caveats. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I feel like it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Okay.
I think some people might enjoy it, but I feel like a lot of people will jump on the hate wagon. Yeah, the haterade train.
Yeah, I'm an adult animation aficionado who smokes a lot of weed, so like this is a must watch for me. But like if there's no reason for you to watch it, or like, if you like Scooby-Doo enough to see what they're up to, go for it. Like I love seeing, reboots and all that. Like so yeah, it's really depending on the person whether or not you should watch it.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it's
But if you're looking for a traditional take on Velma, definitely don't watch it.
Yeah, you're not gonna. My take, it's mid, and but much like Sandy was saying, watch if you want. Like that's my thing. Like I'll give you my 2 cents. I think it's funny, but I also watched the Naked Brother Band at one point when I was younger, and that show's weird as hell. And it's about kids running around being in a band. You're just like, the Wolf Brothers are stars now, and when you watch that show, you're just like, they were not going to be stars, So it's like, you never know. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I will say it deserves to exist in my mind.
Yes,
that's the benchmark I've been. Like all these people trashing it online. Like, chill out. This is like, it's a fine reboot.
Yeah, that's fair. It deserves to exist is a good line.
Yeah, I have to say I'm happy it was made. I like to see that. Yeah.
Are you happy that 90s show is made though, huh? Everybody? Okay, I was asked to read this by one of my friends, and I did on my social media today ask people for feedback on, like, what do you think of Velma? And that 90s show. No one wrote anything to me about Velma, which was very but everyone had something about that 90s show. And okay, hold on, I'm trying to find the exact because they wrote a very big paragraph. I saw your post about the 90s about opinions for that 90s show, and I couldn't type the full answer in Instagram, but I'll let you know here. It sucks. There's no emotional connection between the new kids with themselves and with the legacy cast. The only time it's good is when the legacy cast is on. The new kids feel like small budget Disney actors, but worse. At least Disney acting back in the day was good. The writers wrote it in a way where every line needs to be a punchline, but they're all shitty jokes. Let there be a build-up like there was in the 70s show. Get rid of the stupid fake laugh track, bring back legacy cast, and get rid of these new kids. They can't act for shit.
Wow, this person ripped into it.
Ness, it's someone in our office that you would never think would get this upset about anything. So I look forward to
we'll talk offline.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
I can't shit talk this hypothetical person.
No, I mean, you can go ahead. I will full on let her know, like, hey, other people have other opinions.
We're shit talking the opinion, not
yes.
not the opinion, but the...
No, I was gonna shit talk the person making the opinion.
It's funny that they brought up Disney actors because one of the kids, Kelso, is one of the quadruplet from Ricky, Nikki, Dickie, and Dawn. Which was a Nickelodeon show, not Disney, but that kid was actually really good on that show. Hey, remember guys, Brian watches everything, so it's not shocking that I watched a kid's show that came out like only 3 years ago, but 8 years ago at this point now. But yeah, the kid that plays Kelso, Jay Kelso, right? I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jay Kelso was originally one of the brothers on that show, and he's actually really good on it. He played the like dumb brother. He played the Joey, if like the kind of like what's happening guys, but he was really good at it. And then you kind of see it, it's almost like he's playing a more mature version of that character on this show, but at the same time doing a solid Kelso impression, because the voice sometimes it almost sounds exactly like Ashton Kutcher back in the day. And that's one thing that I thought was great about Jay Kelso. Anyways,
I thought he was a good pick for Kelso's kid. I thought he was a good choice.
Is he
for sure.
Jackie's kid though? That's my other question.
Well, yeah.
Is that because?
Listen, if we want to talk, I think so. But if we're gonna talk continuity, I don't think that 90s show cares that much.
Okay, fair.
Like. I did a TikTok today about how if she's turning 15 in 1995, that means she was born in the summer of 1980, which means that she was conceived in the 70s. Like,
I thought about that too. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Wait a minute.
And so it's either when
do the math.
Yeah, it's either when Eric came back for New Year's Eve, or stay with me. It's what's his face, Randy, is the dad.
Oh goodness!
Wow.
Wow. But then again, like that 70s show stretched 4 years into 8 seasons of TV.
Yeah.
So like I don't think we need to do.
Yeah.
We'll hurt ourselves if we do the math.
Yeah.
What do you have to say though? I'm curious to hear what you had to say about the person's comment.
Oh, I just like in my job, in my posting about that 70s show, it reminded me of a type of person that's doing the hashtag free hide, or he was innocent. I'm like, is that the next thing they said? No, this is probably a very kind person that you both work with and enjoy their company, and they just kind of unloaded on a TV show that, like, sure.
Yeah, they honestly, the fact that this person had this much to say and got this upset was shocking to me, because when I saw the paragraph, I expected it to be a work related thing, and when I read it, I was like, oh, you care about this? And then it's like a block of text, and it was just so funny. But yeah.
I'll say one thing above else about that 90s show though. This is Kitty's show.
Yes.
Deborah Jo Rupp is not only acting circles around these like little Disney kids, but also like teaching them how to act. Like she is mothering.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think without her, Red's good too, but like without her, the whole show doesn't really work.
Bow down.
Yes.
Facts. 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Kitty steals every scene. Kitty is like
Every cutscene.
yes, even the cutscenes.
Yes.
And Kitty in the car from the dentist was
Oh,
gold. The fact that Kitty played
yeah.
that so well, and
Yeah.
and the kids are trying to be the adults, but have no concept of being adults yet. So they're like, we don't know what to do in this situation. And it's like Kitty is just running, like you said, running circles around them, acting wise, but even just in the scenes, in the situation. And it was so well done. I loved it. I love that one. And then
Yeah.
Red is just there to say, I'll stick my foot up your like every chance he can get.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was his role even in
Yeah.
the '70s show, you know, that's kind of his the
Raison
gist of
d'être.
his.
Yeah.
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 But I have to say I knew they weren't gonna bring back all of the characters, you know,
Right.
recurring. But I have to say I was so happy to see that the parents were going to be recurring characters in the show
Yeah.
because I feel like without them, the show would be a flop. Like
Yeah.
100% to me, it would have been a flop. Just because they are the show.
They really were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and like, all the best moments, in my opinion, connected through things that happened with Kitty, mostly Kitty. Like Red was there for some of them, but I don't think any of them, like, it's great that some of the characters, like the stuff with Jay and the stuff with I don't even remember the Leia's best friend's brother. God, what's his name? I'm drawing a
Nate?
blank now. I'll look.
Nate.
Nate. Yeah, like
Bro.
I like Nate. Like Nate's cool, but I just Nate, you just felt like you were just there to be there. That was the unfortunate part. But there's moments like where Nate and Kitty are upstairs and the siblings are arguing, and Kitty, like you were saying, Sandy, Kitty is just like mothering them in a way to like, and then that was the first time that I liked Nate in the show, when they had that interaction and Nate opens up about how his dad's t-shirt means so much to him because of, and you're just
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, like, oh, I get it now. And then Kitty's making jokes
Yeah.
about this caribou or moose's head is this is what it does, like, and you're so she's cutting the tension really well, and you're like, okay, this was great. Like, yeah.
I have to say she aged well, very
Oh
well.
my God, yes.
She looks the same, I
Fantastic.
find.
Yeah, Red looks older,
Compared to
but
the
Kitty looks
70s show.
exactly the same.
Although
Yeah.
I did go back and watch season 1 of that 70s show, and
Okay.
and they both look a little bit younger.
Okay, well, that's fair.
I'm like, Kitty looks my age. Like, damn. Yeah, I loved that 90s show, and I was like so ready to hate it. Like
Yeah.
nostalgic reboot. If you rub me the wrong way, I get to hate you. Like that's the relationship, right? It's like if you fuck up my show, I'm gonna talk about it online.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like captured me, like it. I don't know what it was. I think a lot of it is like everyone knew what show they were showing up to, so it's like
Yeah.
canned laugh track. I loved it. Like not every joke
Yes.
lands, but the ones
Yeah.
that do land. The girl who played Leia, I think she has like amazing comedic timing, and like
Yes.
she was a
Yeah.
really good choice for the lead in my mind. And like
Mhm.
everyone kind of
Yeah.
like, even if you can tell they're not great child actors or like they're not up to par, like they were pulling their weight or doing their bit to hit those sitcom lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the cast, just the kids, there's some, stronger than others and there's some, weaker. But overall, I feel like they all, they all understood the assignment. Even though these kids
Yeah.
are all probably like 16, 15, 17 years old. So they didn't grow up watching that 70s show. So for being younger, it's not the same understanding, I feel like, for someone like us people like us who have already seen that 70s show and we have the nostalgia from it. So I feel like for kids who have no idea what that's like or to grow up with it, they did a good job at continuing as the next generation.
Yeah,
For sure.
But
quick.
some of the jokes
I have
were
one
not
question for you.
landing.
Mhm.
I have one question for you. The last episode, did that feel rushed compared to the build up throughout the season? Did it feel like they were? I say that only like if you haven't watched the show, a little bit of a spoiler. Actually, it's a pretty big spoiler. So if you haven't watched the show and you want to, this is a moment where you might want to take a pause. But when we get to Leia and the relationship, and you start to see Nate and her, and there's kind of like a, you're like, oh, is this what we're getting? And I was just like, I don't feel like you built up to this at all. And then it kind of just feels like this moment happens, and it was like, oh God, everything has to be about trying to mitigate the emotions we felt from that moment as we go into creating a cliffhanger, because then you get that sense of like, here's the cliffhanger that if when you all watch it, you're like, oh, I want to see what happens next. I need season 2. And that the only thing for me was that felt super quick, because it was like, whoa, like I get that the thing with Jay, but like, God, it was so fast. Am I reading too much into it? Was Hyde and Donna the exact same thing back in that 70s show, and I just didn't even notice?
I don't know. I think it's like it is a sitcom trope that like exists to like, oh, we're just gonna pair a different one. But it was a little like just all at once, but I didn't mind it. It kind of I think they had the chemistry to pull it off.
Right. I will give them that.
I was like, I did believe it. I was like, wait, what? Oh no. Like
yeah, they're both awkwardly cute. Like
adorkable.
The
chemistry was there.
Yeah, they do the adorkable thing, because like Nate with his current girlfriend, you can see like she's planning to be the president, and Nate's planning to be alive. Like, I'm gonna be alive in 10 years.
So they set up that well that Nate and Nikki might not end up together,
right?
So I guess I was wondering where that would end up, and that's where it was.
Okay,
like
that's what that was. Okay,
just that,
but I do agree though that it did feel a bit rushed, because I mean I don't mind if something does happen between those two characters, but it did feel very quick in the last episode for it to be like all of a sudden, oh, like we like each other. It was just
bring back 22 episode
so
season.
soon after like being with Jay.
22 episode seasons. I know they don't like. Netflix is like, well, we could produce this many episodes, but
drop them weekly. We'd be talking about that show until June.
Yeah, wow, that's true. That is true.
Like, we're talking about The Last of Us, Velma every week.
And
that 90s show is just like, have you seen it yet? It's great, and it's gonna be a blip on the radar in a month. Like, give me 20 episodes over 4 months.
This is the gift and the curse of the binge format. Netflix created their own monster, and then when everyone else was just like, oh God, everyone wants to binge everything, so everyone did it for a minute. But then, in my opinion, I think Amazon Prime was one of the ones that was just like, you know what, we're gonna try and do weekly again, and started doing like The Boys. Was it The Boys? What was the first thing they did where they tried to go back to weekly? I mean, HBO was always doing weekly, so
I was gonna say Crave and all those. They do them.
But I was trying, when Marvel started doing weekly, that was a big turning point too. Like WandaVision, we were all talking about that.
True. Okay, maybe that's where it was.
Yeah,
because
probably around the same time as The Boys, though.
Yeah, because that was a very big like shot at Netflix. Like, hey, your whole model is binge, but you aren't sustainable, because people will join up, binge everything they want, sign up for a month to watch the one show they want to watch. And then why would I subscribe for 11 more months when this legit is the only show I'm interested in? And then that's why, that, and then you even see that they realize, oh, this is a bad model. We're going to split seasons in 2. So they do things like, And I've mentioned it on Geektastic, so some of you might have heard me say it before. But when you broke up the Stranger Things last season and you released one half at the second to last week of a quarter, and then the next half came at the first something of the other quarter, it's so your sub numbers stay up for 2 quarters in a row. And that to me seems like you're playing with the numbers at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That's
that because they kept doing like quarter to quarter announcements of their subscriptions, and that was causing the huge panic. And all of a sudden there was 2 quarters in a row where the subs didn't change, and I was like, that's weird, what was different? And that's when I noticed, oh, the first half of the Stranger Things season came out at the end of this quarter, and the other one came out at the beginning ish of that one, and that meant you had to stay for the 2 months, which was a crossover into the 2 quarters.
And I also just want to say 10 episodes isn't really a binge.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah,
people are saying they want to go back and watch that 70s show, which Netflix doesn't even have.
Right. I found, which is super interesting. Yeah.
Which is like they tried to replace it with 10 episodes of a reboot. And listen, they did a bang up job on those 10 episodes, but like I'm sitting here like, I don't really want to rewatch it right away. Like,
no,
yeah.
But
it's not enough, and it's only 20 minutes. They go by in a like it's just not enough. It's not enough.
And they're even faster when you're psycho like me who watches TV at 1.5. So I'm like,
I forgot you do that.
Yes, I watched it at 1.5 20-minute episodes. I watched it in less than a day. Like it was just playing, and I was just like, oh, it's done. Whoops, I got to stop doing that. Like,
yeah, I had to save some episodes. Just like, I don't want to crush this all in one night before my partner gets home. Like,
yeah. I honestly, when it was done, I was actually a little annoyed with myself for having not stopped at some point and like watching something else in between, because, you know, and spoilers again if you haven't watched it, but the kitty tattoo, which again, definitely my favorite episode of the season, the dentist continued the kitty tattoo. I remember thinking like, okay, stop watching now, because that is such a good point where you can stop. Like the whole episode's about like the lessons and like teaching Leia, you know, look at what you've done, and then like there's that silly thing where Red's like, you have to get out, and he like holds her hand. It's like, and you're like, oh, okay, like I get it. This is cute. This is this couple, and you know, Jay's really trying to like step up, and such heartwarming reflections on like Kelso would have never done that. You know, like you can see he's different because he's
he's I think and I think Red had a conversation with who is it?
Mrs. Runk, the mom from next door.
Was it? No, there was a conversation that he had about Jay and how he's not like his father. Somebody was saying that to
Kitty.
Red.
Yeah. Kitty said that to me.
That I liked that conversation because they brought up a good point. Because first you think, oh, he's a Kelso, he's gonna be exactly like Jay, not like Jay, like Michael.
Yeah.
But the point is like he's not, you know, just because he's a Kelso doesn't mean he's gonna be exactly the same. And I don't know, it's part of their character development, I guess. What did you guys think of the introduction though to the old characters, how they brought them back?
I thought it was funny. I mean, Donna did a lot more episodes than I thought she was going to do. Like Donna was in what, three episodes? Yeah. And I thought we were only going to see Eric, Donna, Michael, Jackie in that first episode, and that we would never see them again. And then we saw Donna 3 times. We saw Fez 3 or 4 times, maybe.
Wilmer Valderrama getting booked.
Yeah. And like actually having a story, not just being a parent, but like, I'm in a relationship with someone, I've changed. And like, you know, you get the little joke of like, oh, she has kids. Oh God. But then later on still realizing like, oh no, I do want to be a more mature person. And especially when you realize like, hey, all your friends are mature now. Like, hey, you got to step up, buddy. And I thought it was a cute way to bring Fez in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I also, maybe I was just supposed to forget about it, but like, where did Michael and Jackie go? Don't they live there? Isn't that their kid who's like,
hey man,
it's not like they had to go out of town. But whatever, maybe just the one. Like, I didn't catch it
it
till
was just
after.
it's just just for nostalgia, just to bring them back to be like, hey, look who's
Yeah,
here, and we're all gonna scream, and then all right,
Yeah.
bye.
I liked how they brought Leo back. That was a good one.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
was
Oh
used
yeah,
well.
That when he,
Um, in the
that was
forest
so good
too. Yeah,
when you're on his
yeah.
doorstep and he thinks it's Halloween. Yo, man, that was I was dying. I was like, man, this is so good.
and it's an example of like how it doesn't have to be like predictable to be or unpredictable. Like as soon as they said someone's had Clerks out for 6 weeks, I'm like, I think I know who this
Oh,
might
you
be.
knew? I had no idea.
Really? Yeah, me either.
I
I'm
that's such a good catch then because I was like, who's it gonna be? And then it was so good. It was so
y-
well done.
and yeah, it's the perfect like just
Yeah.
because I kind of saw it coming doesn't mean it was any less like woo Leo.
Yeah,
Oh my god, he
yeah,
thinks it's a kitty costume. Like,
yes,
Yeah.
it was great.
But also it to find him randomly in the woods was another great one because you're like, what's happening? Why are you? And then he's asking them for directions after they asked him, and it's like, you gotta love it. Like Leo is a fantastic character, and
Yeah,
Yeah, they used him
oh, it
love
well.
was so
that.
good.
And Jim
Yeah, man.
Rash, that was the other one that,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Fez's rival. I was like, "Oh my god, he was in that."
Oh
And
yeah.
yes.
as soon as Fenton, as soon as they kind of, "Well, I think you," and I'm like, "I remember this. It's all coming back to me
Yeah,
now." Like, it
yeah.
wasn't one that I knew I wanted until it was there.
Oh, when he took off the helmet with the luxurious hair, I was like, that is amazing. And then to walk, anyway, I won't give the punchline, but you guys go check it out. Like that's one takes. Should people check it out? What do you think?
For
I
sure.
Yep,
Yep.
agree. I think if you like that '70s show, I think this is, like, a perfect sort of spiritual sequel to it,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
all the jokes are gonna land for you, and that's fine, but, like, I definitely thought it was better than, like, the later seasons of that '70s show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that they kept the set.
Yeah.
Love
They still
love
did the
that.
circle, or even when Eric and Donna and they're like, "You're upstairs people now," but they did
Yeah.
it in that way. I thought that was so
That
good.
was
It
perfect.
was,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was so good. Or
But I
when Fez
did
was with the kids downstairs, and it's like, "What are you doing down here?" Like, that was great too. Sorry, you were about to say,
yeah, that's a
Ness.
good scene. No, I just wanted to mention that I did watch one of the episodes, with my parents briefly,
Okay.
and, my mom doesn't really remember the show, but my dad used to watch it, and one thing he said was that he found it a little tacky that
Oh,
they
no.
kept it the same style as the '70s show, and I was
Okay.
like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
that is what makes it good, is that they kept the same style, they're keeping the same idea, the same concept, the same set, even the way they're filming, they tried to film it similarly to the way that '70s show is filmed,
I
but,
f
like, someone like my dad who's older, maybe they'll think some people might think like, "Oh, it's too tacky because it's not what it used to be.
but
It's
it's
not
funny
exactly the same."
because I would say, like, as a kid of the '90s, like, I was 7 in 1990, and then I 17 at the end of the decade. So at the beginning of the decade, my parents' house had like I remember going to my aunt's house and seeing the art, and then as an adult seeing shows based in the '70s and be like, my aunt had that up when I was a kid, and it's because those art pieces from the '70s, like I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but the string art where people would do like a boat, but it's like strings wrapped around nails, and it's like
Oh,
really
okay.
and it's
Yeah.
really it's beautiful, but those were so popular, at least I think they were popular in the '70s, because I remember seeing those at my aunt's house as a kid, but that was from her art collection when she was in like a young kid in the '70s and was just like, I got some money and I love this, so I'm going to put this up, and it just stayed there forever. And so for me, it felt true to the idea that a family whose kids have left and they're like, we don't really like the kitchen gets updated a little bit, but why am I changing the basement? It has a couch, and my no one's down there, so
Also, like, what style would you do it in? I'm like, would you update it to, like, the Modern Family style where they're all doing,
mm,
like, confessionals or, like, a Parks and Rec, or would you do, like, a mockumentary? Like, I don't know if that would work because it would take you out of the fundamental, like, sitcom reality. Like, it's
yeah.
supposed to be the same location, right? Like, yeah, maybe there's a way to
I thought
update it,
so. I
but
mean, I
I
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was just a warm blanket, just like, "Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
It's like they picked, dusted the show off that I really liked and casted some new characters and new scenes and showed them smoking weed in a basement. That's all I needed.
We got it. It's good.
I don't know. It's especially for nostalgic reasons. It's perfect. To me, this is like the perfect type of reboot. Like I don't know. Like when I saw the reboot for Boy Meets World, I think it's called
Girl Meets World. Yeah.
That for me was a bit too modern for the style. I don't know. It was a bit too like Disney show.
And it was, and that's the other thing though, because that one, like Boy Meets World was ABC TGIF, and Girl Meets World was like full on a Disney Channel show, like a Disney kids show. And I think some people thought, oh well, this is going to be great for the nostalgia factor for the older people. But as someone who watched Boy Meets World, watching Girl Meets World, I was like, this isn't for me. I know, like when I'm watching this, I understand that this is they're hoping to capture a younger audience and kind of carry it on. They're throwing in the cameos where like Ryder Strong and all the other characters, Matthew Lawrence came in. There's like a whole bunch of them come in, and even what the Ryder Strong's like adopted like teacher dad shows up at one point, and you're like, oh, okay, they're really going for it. But it's like, well, at the same time, this isn't necessarily for me. I'm, in my 30s. Why do I need to be watching a show about these kids in school? So
yeah, and whereas you would think because Corey and Topanga were parents, in the show, you would think it would be a bit more, I don't know,
about them.
Well, not necessarily about them, but just a bit more of the same style of Boy Meets World.
Right, family dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a bit too, I guess, kiddie.
Yeah, it definitely was. That one was. But hey, that we got Sabrina Carpenter through Disney, and now doing pop songs that, they're not the best, but I like a good Sabrina Carpenter pop song on a playlist. For those of you who know what my job is, I appreciate when her pop songs come out because she likes to keep it clean and she's generic pop, and it's just like perfect. Here's this song in every playlist I can put it in. So.
Disney pop, baby.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the classic Disney.
Yeah.
Give me some Dove Cameron. Yeah. Not modern Dove Cameron.
Dove
I don't
know. Oh my god. So I guess we're all saying we would recommend. Are there any other shows before we sign off? Because we're coming to the end. Are there any other shows that either of you have watched recently that you'd be like, hey, I would also recommend people check this out? I watch a lot of TV, so I will try. I will go last.
I'm trying to think. Is it cheating if I click onto my Netflix right now?
No, not at all. I'm gonna look up my serialized. Shout outs to Ness, who told me about Letterboxd, which then led to Serialized, which is my new addiction. Serialized is
download that.
Is the TV version of Letterboxd. It helps you keep track of all your shows in one nice little list here. And as I've mentioned to people, I've watched in my lifetime, because I went back and listed every single show I've ever watched. I've watched 1,009 shows in my 39 years on this planet.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an addiction, people. I've been saying it for years. I'm a TV addict, and I probably need help. Why not call it
a passion?
No, because it's an addiction.
Aficionado.
I appreciate. See, I love when people. I know, like, I get it, but I know this is an addiction. Like, my partner regularly be like, "Can you go a day without watching TV?" And I'll do it. I'll do the day. But I'm telling y'all, I'm jonesing for a screen. I'm jonesing for like a poorly written 20-minute show of like laugh track, and I'm just like, "Come on, man!" Like, it's like playing in my head.
Oh man, yeah, I've been getting into like old Gotham episodes. Like these are the two new shows I've been watching, that 90s and Velma. But like, yeah, I've been going back to just some old Gotham was like good bad TV.
Okay,
just like for me, right down the middle. Like I'm not too invested in it.
Yeah,
so it's not going to ruin my night if it ends badly. But yeah, I guess that's the one. I don't know.
Did you watch Gotham to the end the first time?
No, I'm still. I think I'm in the last season right now, going through it all. And it, oh my god, it's getting.
Yeah, it gets.
I like
I
it, yeah.
actually gave up on the last season, so it's. I actually, now that you mentioned, I almost do want to go back just to at least finish off the series, because I really didn't. Because I once what Homeboy came in and played Joker, and I was just like, oh, what are you? And I got really annoyed because it's like, oh, it's the twin. I was like, no, stop. And then I stopped watching. Literally that episode where they introduced the twin Jokers.
Oh, I love a good twin trope. I'm a Riverdale junkie. Like,
oh god.
when they brought in Cheryl's identical uncle
Oh
that
yes,
they've never talked about,
Yeah.
greatest moment in TV history.
Oh god. Ness, do you have anything? Ness, it doesn't even have to be a show. It can be a movie, because I know you're big on the movies. So anything that you would recommend?
I mean, I have been watching shows. I recently watched The White Lotus.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. Cool concept of a show.
Yeah.
I would recommend.
Yeah.
And I just started up the latest season of Ozark. If
Yeah.
no one has seen that. Jason
Ozark.
Bateman, director and writer and starring in it.
Yeah.
It's a great show. And for movies, I recently watched The Whale.
Oh, okay.
I would also recommend.
Cool.
I would also recommend. Great
Cool.
watch. And great performance by Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. That's what everyone's been saying. I think he even got a nod, right, for Best Actor.
Best Actor nomination. Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of fun. I got to work really early on Tuesday and was and randomly, I didn't know that they were doing the announcement, and just opened up my YouTube, and it flashed as the first thing, and I was like, sure, why not see the nominations at 8:30 in the morning? So it was fun to see, and Angela Bassett getting supporting actress nod.
Oh yes, yeah.
First time a Marvel film has gotten an actor nomination out of all
Really?
the films. 23, 4, 5 films or something, and this is the first time an actor has been nominated for an award from a Marvel film. So it is a pretty big thing. But I mean, if you saw Wakanda Forever, and we've talked about it here, Ness, you were there on the episode, Angela Bassett brought Oscar Bassett to that set.
Yeah.
Like, you see those scenes and you're like, you're not doing Marvel, you're doing Oscar performance in a Marvel.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that she was nominated. I'm surprised that it's the first time an actor was nominated.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
For Marvel. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, if it was anyone from the MCU, that would be the performance.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, facts.
I'm not giving it to Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Sorry, Ant-Man.
Please, no.
Maybe next time. He is lovable, though.
I'm sorry. Ant-Man is the worst hero.
But he's lovable.
In Marvel.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are going to be cheering for Kang in this one.
Oh, I am. I full on want Kang. It's not even just the race thing, because I know that Black Twitter was making that joke, but just like, Majors is such a great actor. The Kang is such an interesting character, and Scott Lang as a character in the MCU, you're fun, but man, you're kind of just a idiot who keeps tripping into success. And it's like, Kang has been planning things for like centuries through time travel. It's like, I can't see you beating him, and if you do in some way, I would genuinely be annoyed with it, because it'd be like, what? An ant killed an elephant is essentially what we'd be saying with that, and that would drive me crazy. Yeah. I'm trying to think of TV shows. I recently have been watching Mayfair Witches, which is a continuation of the Immortal universe over on AMC. We had Interview with the Vampire. That was the first series, and Mayfair Witches with Alexandra Daddario. She was in the first season of True Crimes. I always feel like I say her name wrong, so let me just actually look it up. Alexandra Daddario, if anyone knows.
Don't know her.
And then the other show that I have been watching recently, Will Trent with Ramon Rodriguez. It's based on a book series. It's kind of fun to watch. A lot of good representation on that show. And then my other guilty pleasure has been So Help Me Todd, which I really don't want to like as much as I do. But I gotta say, Skylar Astin. After, like, I really like Skylar Astin from Zoe's Infinite Playlist, or is that the name? Zoe's.
I feel like he was in one of those.
Yeah, but like,
Pitch Perfect guy.
Sorry,
Pitch Perfect guy.
Yes, yeah. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is the name of the show, and he was good in that show, like genuinely good. And then that show got canceled, and at least we got a movie on Roku to finish it off. But then this is his next project, and it's filmed in Vancouver. One of my buddies, Akeem Hoyt Charles, has been in an episode, which was really cool to see. But it's just, the show's silly, but actually really fun. Like, it's like weekly mystery type procedural, but he kind of fumbles through things, but he's actually really good at his job, even though he's an idiot. And his mom's like a high class lawyer in a big firm and gets him a job being an investigator at the firm. So she's always in like power suits and classy. And he's like in like, Professor Patch jackets being a moron, but they work together and solve all the mysteries. And you're just like, I hate this. This is so dumb. Why do I keep watching you? Why is it funny? So, there you go.
That's the one to watch.
Yeah. Folks, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show. Ness, thank you also for being on the show. Sandy, where can people follow your social medias?
My social medias, I am Beat Easy on most of them, BeaTeasy, or the Beat Easy on Instagram. But I'm running the Watch Mojo socials, so come follow Watch Mojo on TikTok and like my thirsty Pedro Pascal videos and convince them that they should keep letting me do my job.
There you go. And Ness, where can people follow you?
You can see my name tag here.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's Ness on Instagram and also on Letterboxd.
Bong bong. Folks, it's been a fun one. And as we said, check out the shows, judge for yourself. We have our opinions, but ultimately only you will know if you like the things we've talked about, if you check them out for yourselves. But we want to thank you for tuning in once again to another edition of Geektastic Sci-Fi. We'll be back with another one soon. Peace, everybody. Have a good one.